they are at the moment facing a real crisis. Meghan and Harry's crisis, completely of their own making, is they have no major projects, no major money earner. And so they're more desperate than ever.
Well, Meghan herself.
And Meghan herself.
In the months before she met Harry, was setting up
the implosion of the Sussexes. Meghan Markle's Archewell charity scam and as ever lies have finally been exposed, an astonishing double blow for the fake Duchess.
Well, absolutely, but don't even believe that there were 5 options. What you really saw were Harry's and Meghan's fantasy narrative, which they call the truth.
She is hoping that she's going to become a billionaire off all of this, which again is total insanity. I think the woman's expectations are so unrealistic.
Their problem is that they've got no future. I mean, as ever, all her product, of course, is a complete disaster. She's got no Netflix series. She hasn't got any project at all. And they are literally wallowing in a maze where to go. And so predictably.
Are they insane? What is happening? There is complete and utter chaos going on. The Meg and Herald are taking their rebrands far too literally at this point. Archewell, their charity effort, has not only changed its name from a foundation to philanthropies, which is even worse branding, I might add.
The money is officially drying up for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. As more and more news of the dissolution of Archewell Foundation comes forward, it's very, very clear that this restructuring is due to a lack of one very, very key thing, which is money. In fact, Harry and Meghan sold themselves to a dinner table at $100,000 a pop to raise money for Archewell.
Look, there's been leaked financial details from the Archewell Foundation that's quite fascinating because it shows that there's 2 donors who've given one of them 15 million and one 3 million.
But Harry doesn't want to know any of that truth. That's the trouble with Harry. He just likes, because in his simple way, the paparazzi murdered my mother. Well, it wasn't as simple as that at all.
Whatever you're doing right now, pause it. Because what Tom Bauer has just laid out about Meghan Markle's looming 2026 financial reality is the kind of revelation her PR machine would rather bury. We're talking about $23 million worth of unsold jam sitting in a warehouse the Archewell Foundation officially declared delinquent by the state of California, a Netflix show limping in at number 1,217 on the platform, and a woman who once truly believed billionaire status wasn't a dream, but an inevitability.
And I predicted it in the book, but even I would not have thought it'd be that accelerated. I think personally, they've separated their professional lives, but I think what's really a great problem for them now, as of in the last few weeks, is that Meghan has got no real income anymore. She's finished.
Right.
The Netflix series is over. There's no great podcast. They don't generate any money. And I don't see where she is going from here. I think she has a major problem. And I think as of this week, the signal for her great problem.
Tom Bauer's track record is uncomfortable for a reason. He's been right before, repeatedly, and what he's now saying about how this entire saga ends isn't speculation, it's a warning. Stay with me, because the deeper you go into this story, the darker it becomes before there's even a hint of daylight.
It was a Channel 5 investigation as to the state of the Sussex's finances. Now, we know they didn't move to a 2-bedroom cottage somewhere in the middle of nowhere. They're living in quite a large mansion in Montecito. And one of the things that Prince Harry made very public when he left the royal family, one of the things that he was quite disgruntled about was the fact that his father basically cut him off financially. So really they were in a state where they had to make a lot of money and a lot of money fast. He blundered in a video and said, the Netflix deal was an idea that was pitched to him.
Well, I do think the Sussex overdrive is unbelievable.
Here's the part most people miss. They glance at Harry and Meghan and assume they're still wealthy enough that none of this matters. But Bauer isn't talking about surface level millions. He's describing a systematic collapse, one he predicted years ago, now unfolding in real time in a way that can't be rebranded, reframed, or spun away with glossy interviews and filtered Instagram posts.
Years ago, we were talking about Meghan Markle running for president. And what a decline, how irrelevant they've become today. Do the Sussexes still pose an institutional risk, or are they now culturally sidelined?
I mean, an institutional risk to the British monarchy? Oh, absolutely. A huge risk.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Because there's no doubt as they become more desperate.
Bauer didn't throw this theory together overnight. He spent years digging, interviewing more than 80 sources, former staff, royal insiders, Hollywood executives, and the portrait that emerged wasn't flattering. It was a story of carefully manufactured ambition smashing headfirst into the unyielding wall of reality.
I mean, extraordinary that the non-disclosure agreements are so draconian, so watertight, that nobody dares sell their story. I mean, that is what's quite astonishingly clever of Meghan and her lawyers, to protect their reputation and all the dreadful things that have happened in Montecito behind the high walls. But my book reveals a bit more about that, my future book. But that's a teaser.
This was the woman who walked away from one of the most powerful institutions on earth, secured a $100 million Netflix deal, launched a lifestyle empire, founded a charity, and promised to change the world. And now, in 2026, Tom Bauer is standing over what he calls the wreckage, receipts in hand. So let's walk through it piece by piece.
I do think the problem with Meghan is that she never actually says anything in interviews. It is so carefully controlled, so carefully chosen what she's going to say that she says really pretty well nothing. Now, is it because she's got nothing to say, or is it because she's fearful that if she did move off the benign script, she would actually get into real trouble? I think it's the latter. She's clever enough to know that to retain her mystery and status, she should reveal nothing about herself.
Start with the Archewell Foundation, because Bauer insists this is where the truth about the couple quietly lives. When Harry and Meghan unveiled Archewell in 2020, it was framed as a humanitarian mission named after their son Archie, built on compassion, service, and global change. That was the narrative presented to the world.
Just revealed how catastrophically bad things are going for Harry and Meghan. Archewell is essentially done. Any aspect of their charity has essentially collapsed completely, and it's been revealed for what it really always was, which is a publicity stunt. They were completely and utterly willing to throw aside the people they were supposed to help, and now we have the situation where it's all their art. It's just artifice. It's just there for show, and Harry and Meghan just don't have a lot of hope going into 2026.
But according to Bauer and the foundation's own publicly filed 990 tax documents available for anyone to examine, the numbers tell a very different story. In 2021, Archewell received $15 million, its high water mark. That was the peak.
I want to get into the details of this, Brittany, because the details here matter, given that everything Harry and Meghan do is topspin, trying to convince the world, and very often the mainstream media are sucked in, that everything's okay, but it's really not. And the first revelation in regards to Archewell is that the charity is down to just 2 staffers.
Not Harry and Meghan, and she didn't want to play second fiddle.
That is so true.
That same period coincided with the Netflix windfall and lucrative book advances. Money was flowing, yet by 2024, donations had plunged to $2.1 million, down from $5.3 million the previous year. Total expenses in that same year, $5.1 million. The math doesn't whisper, it shouts. They spent more than twice what came in.
They are using Archewell to fund their lifestyle, not to change the world, because the security bill alone said to be around $2 million a year, with money flowing out of the charity. So Archewell actually recorded total expenses of $5.1 million, according to its latest 990 form. Salaries for 2024 were listed at $913,000. Expenses were up 54% year on year, soaring from $3.3 million.
Likes to portray Meghan as Diana, but they've got absolutely nothing in common at all.
And here's the detail Bauer highlights as the most damaging. Of that $5.1 million spent, only $1.25 million went to charitable causes. Nearly $4 million disappeared into salaries, security, travel, and administrative costs. Security alone reportedly cost around $2 million a year. Money flowing out of a charity.
Other expenses recorded at $2 $2.9 million. Meanwhile, donations and grants to the group dipped from $5.3 million in 2023 to $2.1 million in 2024. Insiders skeptical of how Archewell, which doled out $1.25 million in grants in 2024, can continue. The source said if they're shooting out grants, then that's a net loss and they're not bringing in that much money.
Bauer has been blunt. Archewell was never structured like a traditional philanthropy. In his assessment, it functioned primarily as a financial vehicle, a mechanism to manage tax burdens while massive Netflix and publishing checks rolled in. That structure isn't illegal. Many wealthy Americans operate similarly. But what sets this situation apart is what happened next.
I believe it is clear exposure of what Archewell really is. A PR project, nothing more. It's disgusting.
It really is, Dan. And one of the things is that Harry and Meghan have always said service is universal. They're going to be doing charity in the States and all these things. And it's just completely and utterly false. It was just a lie from the very face of it. And we've seen this endlessly. Meghan praises herself constantly for being this great humanitarian. But when you really think about it, what has she done? I mean, even before she married Harry, she was part of World Vision.
At its peak, Archewell employed 5 staff members. By the end of 2024, that number had dropped to 2. 3 employees, 60% of the team, were let go during what was described as a rebrand. Some were reportedly told the charity was shutting down entirely. Then that statement was walked back. Then the website quietly vanished during the transition to Archewell Philanthropies.
I find really abhorrent. Well, I go further than that. I mean, all those things can be excused as youth and all the rest of it. But the support of Meghan in her full story about the conversation, which was banter, and I know that from first hand, and was really inconsequential. To support that was his act of folly, because he was already a grown man at that stage. He knew the consequence of it.
Bauer calls this a pattern. When problems surface, the narrative shifts, the website disappears, a spokesperson steps in, and the assumption is that public attention will drift elsewhere. But it didn't. California issued a delinquency notice, meaning Archewell failed to file required documentation correctly and was technically barred from raising or spending funds.
Problem lies is the fact that Harry and Meghan, when they do have a camera in front of them and when they are in a position to communicate with the public, they're not promoting that charity. They're typically complaining about what's going on in their lives or what happened 4 years ago. So people don't know that there's an opportunity there to collaborate with them and make the world a better place with their charity.
For an organization presenting itself as a global humanitarian force, that isn't a minor clerical slip. It's a flashing red warning sign. And if Archewell represents the slow unraveling, then as ever is the explosion Bauer says he saw coming from day one.
Haven't been back since. Why wouldn't you nurture that popularity? It's nothing they do makes sense to me.
We come to was never, as Lady Colin Campbell has christened Meghan Markle's lifestyle business. Now, Brittany, you have been on this right from the start. It has been obvious that this business is a disaster.
He argued that Meghan's commercial instincts were driven more by ego than grounded business sense, and the numbers appear to back him up. When As Ever launched in April 2024, headlines screamed that Meghan's jam sold out within hours. The PR strategy worked flawlessly, but then someone tested the shopping cart system by adding large quantities to reveal the real inventory levels, and what surfaced was staggering.
So much of the smoke and mirrors in the early days of the launch of that business was connected to the scarcity strategy, which meant that virtually no product was put on sale, right? So that it would sell out. And so that she got the good headlines, or what she thought was the good headlines. But now, the true extent of the stock available for As Ever has been revealed.
Right now, Meghan Markle is reportedly sitting on $23 million in unsold product, 137,455 fruit spread gift boxes in storage. In one recent 24-hour window, only 26 units sold. At that pace, clearing the inventory would take nearly 9 years, and these are perishable goods. Add to that 44,000 orange marmalades, 62,000 candles, and 80,000 flower sprinkles collectively. collecting dust. Bauer's explanation is ruthless. The original sellout was engineered. Release a few hundred units to spark headlines, then leverage that illusion to justify ordering hundreds of thousands more. Assuming curiosity would convert into loyalty, it didn't. One reviewer compared the taste to Smucker's at $36 a jar, and repeat customers never materialized. Netflix's backing of As Ever, Bauer says, was minimal. They weren't willing to gamble heavily on something so speculative. The press bought the illusion, consumers didn't, and when it comes to Netflix itself, Bauer uses a phrase that may be the most accurate diagnosis of all: slow ghosting. The $100 million deal that was meant to crown them global content titans has quietly deflated. With Love, Meghan was not renewed for a third season, and Bauer argues there wasn't truly a second, just one season split in two. The rankings tell the story. With Love, Meghan landed at 1,217, the holiday special at 1,500. Despite worldwide media attention and an enormous budget, the audience simply didn't show up. Bauer's conclusion is blunt: no originality, no depth, no authenticity, only calculated performance. She aimed for Martha Stewart but delivered pretzels rearranged on camera and labeled it culinary art. Crew members reportedly described an obsession with appearance that drained warmth from the screen. Even in a London courtroom, the optics worsened. While Harry testified in his lawsuit against the Daily Mail over alleged phone hacking from 2001 to 2013, years before Meghan, he broke down saying they had made his wife's life a misery. A judge intervened 3 times, urging him to stop arguing and answer questions directly. Meanwhile, Meghan remained in California, posting on Instagram. If Harry loses, legal costs could soar into the tens of millions. Bauer's long-standing predictions now seem to be materializing. A lifestyle requiring an estimated $400 to $600 million in capital, sustained by a net worth closer to $35 to $40 million. Income streams drying up, Spotify long gone, reported $100,000 a seat, dinner auctions to fund Archewell. Bauer argues that when you have to sell proximity to yourself, the brand is already fading. He believes the push for taxpayer-funded UK security is less about safety and more about leverage, a path back to royal relevance and potentially to King Charles. But if reconciliation is sought, Bauer suggests it may be financial, not familial. The king, reportedly unmoved, has not stepped in, and here's Bauer's most chilling warning. A couple facing financial pressure still holds royal proximity, and proximity can be monetized. Speaking engagements, interviews, future books, each trades on the very institution they claim to have escaped. Years ago, Bauer said you cannot build a lasting brand on victimhood. Eventually, audiences don't rage, they disengage. And in 2026, that indifference may be the loudest verdict of all. What remains is stark: 137,000 jars of fruit spread unsold, a courtroom transcript marked by tears in a case unrelated to his wife, and a charity officially declared delinquent. Bauer's narrative, once controversial, is now echoing through financial filings, legal proceedings, and warehouse shelves stacked with $42 jam no one seems eager to buy. Tell me what you think in the comments, subscribe so you don't miss what happens next, because if Tom Bauer's history tells us anything, this story